Howdy, my name is Weiss Stanley, and this is my business research presentation for the 2025 LETU University Intro to Business Dual Credit class. In this presentation, I was tasked with finding a Fortune 500 company that fell from grace due to ethical reasons. A company scandal which I have read about immediately came to mind, the PFOA scandal of the DuPont chemical company. The fraud began in 1998 when Earl Tennant, a West Virginia cattle farmer, lost over half of his herd due to an unknown cause. The symptoms displayed by the livestock were nothing like he'd ever seen before. Blood was running out of their noses and mouths, large patches of hair were missing, and the eyes and organs were a strange blue. Even buzzards wouldn't touch the carcasses. In 1998, Tennant began documenting the deaths, sensing that something wasn't quite right, and he suspected that a recent landfill upstream owned by DuPont, the chemical manufacturing giant, was to blame. Tennant then placed a call to Rob Billett, an environmental lawyer who accepted the case. After intensive research, Billett and his team eventually discovered a DuPont chemical called perfluorooctanoic acid, also known as PFOA. While not labeled as hazardous, it quickly became clear that this was no mundane chemical. In the documents reviewed by Billett, it was discovered that DuPont had conducted tests on this chemical as early as the 1950s, noting PFOA concentration in animal and human bloodstreams. DuPont initially removed women of childbearing age from areas of high PFOA exposure after 2 infants born to the employees had eye-related birth defects. But despite these effects, DuPont did not inform the EPA of the chemical's toxicity and even moved the young women back into areas of high PFOA exposure. After further research from Billett and his team, large amounts of PFOA was found downstream from the DuPont landfill, as far as 77 miles, including Tennant's farm. This was calculated to have affected over 70,000 people directly, but traces of PFOA have been found in the fluids of over 97% of the American population. Now, observing this scandal from a Christian standpoint, you start to get a completely different point of view. First and foremost, it should be every Christian's priority to hold truth, honesty, and accountability very highly. We see that this was the first principle to be violated, with DuPont knowing that the chemical was toxic, but not telling anyone so they wouldn't lose profit. They covered the studies despite the public's best interest, and shirked accountability later in the case, only attempting to make things right when legally forced to do so over 50 years later. Next, we see that DuPont also completely shirked the value of human life and care for the vulnerable. Mankind is made in God's own image, and as such, we understand that life is so much more than a chemical accident. As Christians, we're called to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, defend the weak, and help the poor. Through the actions displayed in the corporate leadership, a complete disregard for human life was displayed, with PFOA causing health issues not only for the one exposed, but for their children as well. Finally, we see that God placed the care of the world into the hands of mankind. In Genesis 1:26, he gives us dominion over the earth. Our earth is to be looked after by the mankind set into place. Just as DuPont completely disregarded human life, they also disregarded all creation, since the chemicals accumulated in the air and in the water. The poor decision-making did not only directly affect many, but it will also be felt long into the future, since these chemicals will be present in the earth for generations to come. Now, covering who is responsible for the scandal and who could have stopped it. Since this case was so widespread, taking place over the course of 50 years, the company changed CEOs multiple times. Some of these CEOs are Lamont DuPont Copeland in the 60s, who initially saw the studies displaying adverse effects, Charles O. Holliday in the 90s, who was responsible for the cover-ups and document destruction rampant during the Tennant case, and Ellen Coleman in the 2000s, who oversaw the company during the time for litigation while still denying accountability. Finally, about 60 years later in 2021, Daryl Roberts, the chief of operations, still continued to defend DuPont's limited response to victim compensation. This scandal marks a long chain of sin that still remains unbroken to this day. Any of these men could have put preventative actions into place. The evidence was there. They could have begun to set things right. But instead, they chose to deny accountability, disregard the value of human life, and pollute the earth around them, all in favor of company profit and saving face. The DuPont scandal acts as a cautionary tale. When truth is denied, there are widespread consequences felt by many. And if you continue to deny the truth, you just dig a deeper hole of sin. It's important to bring these stories into the light so we can better understand how to do what's right. Thank you.